Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, back for another episode of our tactical breakdown series, show in which we break down the players analytically and statistically that could be joining the Gunners this summer. And the latest player to be linked to Arsenal has been linked for a little bit now, and even being tipped to be Aubameyang's replacement, but that might be a little bit further from the mark than you realise, not for rumour or speculation reasons, but actually tactically and analytically a little bit further from the truth. And you'll learn all about that in today's episode. But make sure, if you are enjoying the series, you drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new around here, and turn notifications on so you never miss a show. You can also support the channel by becoming a member. Click that join button on your desktop or Android by clicking the link in the description. But let's kick things off and talk about today's focus, which is, of course, Jonathan David. Now, we like to kick off the show, as always, with insight from someone who knows way more than anyone else on the platform, including obviously myself. And I need to educate myself often about these players, and who better to talk to than Canadian football expert and top flight football writer Mahith Gamage, who is going to give you all of his insight and info about Jonathan David. So Mahith, take it away.
Hey guys, I'm Mahith Gamage, and it's an absolute pleasure to be on the Gooner Talk YouTube channel. I'm here to talk about Jonathan David, who is a player that Arsenal have been linked with quite extensively over the last month or so. He's a player I've watched quite a bit over the last few years because I'm Canadian and I follow the men's national team very closely, and Jonathan David, in my opinion, is the best player on the national team at the moment. He's scoring pretty much all of their goals. I believe he's already in the top 10 goal scorers for Canada's national team history, and he's only had a handful of caps, so you can kind of tell just by that he's a prolific goal scorer. He isn't the number 9. That's not what he is. He's not a natural number 9, which is why I was surprised when he was linked with being an Aubameyang replacement, because I just can't see him at this stage of his career playing as a lone number 9. But Jonathan David does play for Ghent in the Belgian Pro League. In my opinion, he's the best player in that country right now, absolutely tearing it up. He's scoring goals, he's assisting goals, he's contributing everywhere on the pitch, and that's the sort of player he is. He's naturally a number 10, although he's not, the creative tempo-keeping type that maybe we associate with the number 10 position over the years. He's very much an attacking player, loves to drive forward with the ball. He's kind of like a second striker, kind of like what you think of Dele Alli or Paulo Dybala as, and that's kind of his main role, although he has been playing in a front two over the last few weeks for Ghent. He scored a goal against Roma in the Europa League, playing on the left side of the front two, so you can see that he can play as a number 9, but he's not really the focal point. I think he would be perfect as a Lacazette replacement, actually, or maybe even a Mesut Ozil replacement, but I don't think he's ready to replace Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's goals. Other than that, though, he is a fantastic player, of course, and he's worth the price tag, especially that, players in his sort of age group and his potential, his ability right now are going for like 40, 50 million, whereas he is being linked to Arsenal for about 15 to 30 million, I believe, which is really cheap for a player of his ability and his potential. So I don't think it's a bad deal to go for Arsenal, even though maybe he's not ready to be a starting caliber player. But I mentioned he's naturally a number 10, and he's one of those players that loves to drive with the ball from deep. He's very good on the counter attack. He's physical, he's fast, he's brilliant in the final third. I mean, just look up his statistics right now. They're ridiculous. I mean, he scores goals, he assists goals, and this comes from kind of late runs into the box. He's very strong. He's a good finisher, and he just has those final third instincts that you need to score goals at the highest level, and he's been doing that this season. He's been doing that for the national team as well, and that's sort of the player he is. I'd compare him to somebody like Marcus Rashford or Nabil Fekir. Obviously they have differences, but these are players that are really physical, great with driving the ball forward on the counter attack, and Jonathan David is very much in that mold. And he's a player I really love to watch, and I'm sure once you guys start watching him a bit more, whether it's for Arsenal or another team, that you'll love him too, because he's very unique. Physical-wise, he's a monster. I mean, he's developed well beyond his years physically, and I don't think he would need sort of an adjustment period physically to Premier League football like most young players do, because he's been playing. He won the Gold Cup, Golden Boot in the summer. He's been playing against high-level teams for over 2 years now. He's definitely capable of adjusting to Premier League football quickly, I think. But other than that, he's so effective in the final third with his late runs. He's he's just brilliant, and he's a player who I think is going to go on to do great things in European football. And he's somebody who's also gone under the radar because I believe he is, it's because he's Canadian, in my opinion, because he's not Brazilian, he's not from England, he's not from Spain, he's not from a footballing country. So he didn't really get much attention until now, of course, being linked with many, many big clubs. He does have a couple weaknesses, as I mentioned earlier. He cannot really play as a lone number 9. He's got to work on his hold-up play. And just, he's sort of the player that loves to play off of others. He's not really the one that everybody else plays off of. And that's kind of the best description I can give of him. And that's why I think his future lies as an attacking 10 or as a striker in a front 2, unless, of course, maybe down the line he can adjust to being a lone striker. But for now, I can't really see him being an Aubameyang replacement. But I think, regardless of that, he would be a great addition to the Arsenal squad because he can score goals, he can assist goals, and he's very versatile too. I mean, I mentioned he can play as a 9 and an attacking midfield, but he's also played left wing and right wing for Canada, and that's so useful for a player of his age especially. He's got the world at his feet, and he's a player I really love. Fast, strong, just great dribbling, great physique, effective in the final third, and yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see where his career goes. I'd love for it to be at Arsenal. I think that would be a dream come true for me personally, to see a Canadian at Arsenal Football Club. But whether that's to be or not, we will see. But regardless, he is a great player, and I'm so excited to see him develop.
A huge thank you to Mahith for helping us out there with today's tactical breakdown. The most interesting thing I took from that is talking about positionally what Jonathan David is going to bring, and knowing that he's not an out-and-out number 9, thinking that Aubameyang could most likely be off this summer with 1 year left on his contract. Is he the guy to take over the reins? And the answer is probably no. The answer is probably that we're looking at more of a number 10 role, a second striker role, and Lacazette has obviously always been thought of as maybe being able to play that second striker rather than an out-and-out number 9. And Jonathan David does fit that mould a lot more, and seeing someone who's a lot more proactive in that number 10 role rather than an enabler like Mesut Ozil could be something the Arsenal fans are more likely to get on board with. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. But let's hit up our statistical section of the video as we go into the heat map, which you can see on your screen now. He's all over the pitch. He's absolutely everywhere. He plays left, he plays right. Naturally, as that second striker, can play across the front, attacking free. Is really nice to show that as well. And he loves being in the box. You've got that clear difference between the intensity in and around the box and then inside the box to be a poacher and get on the end of those key chances to being made by Ghent in the league. And that has led, if we look at his attacking stats, to some incredibly impressive statistics. 23 goals and 9 assists across the domestic season. I mean, the concentration of shots, which he's making just over 2. I mean, the fact that he makes just over 2 shots in each game and he's scored 23 goals is a ridiculously clinical striker. 50-50 really, just over 50-50 in terms of accuracy, which we'd hopefully slightly see a little bit higher. The difference being with this type of player is that when he does get that shot on target, it is typically a deadly one. And the fact that he is scoring so many of those chances, you look at the amount of purple dots there compared to blue dots, those blue dots being the ones that are on target but not goals. It's nearly 50-50 in terms of how many shots not only go on target but actually are converted when they do go on target. So if he gets a shot on goal, he's more or likely going to score. And the creative side of his game is also there. We'll talk about that a bit more in his passing statistics. This leads to an exceptionally good XG of 0.42. Shot assist just over 1 as his creation is. Crossing, he does like to drift wide sometimes and can put in the old cross, 33.3% in terms of accuracy. Dribbles 4.2 with a 51.6% success rate. We'd like to see that a little bit higher as he develops into a more esteemed player. But 10.68 duels per game offensively, and he's winning 44% of those. That is extremely impressive. 4.9 touches in the box. He loves to be in there taking the ball and getting as many opportunities as he can, and it leads to not too many offsides but a couple. But progressive runs, mainly 1.74 runs being made for his for his teammates, but the technical ability of this guy leading to 2.28 fouls being suffered shows that he loves taking players on. He absolutely loves it. Passing stats, 31.48 passes with an 81% accuracy. As I said, he's not an enabler of a number 10/second striker. He's someone who is proactive, and so that's why his passing accuracy isn't at the dizzying heights of the high 80s or low 90s. Long passing, not really too much part of his game, but when he does do them, 47.8% are coming through passes, which is obviously a really key part of any forward's game to try and lay in the players around him. He makes one of those every single game, and he's only got an accuracy of 24.3, which isn't amazing, but maybe something that would develop were he to move to the Gunners. Assists, 0.24. We talked about him having 9 assists so far this season. Really impressive for someone of his ilk. Passes into the final third, nearly 3 of those being made with a 72.5% accuracy. That's really, very good. Maybe we'd like to see it nearer the 80s, but still a very decent return for a forward player. Passes into the box is over 50%, nearly 60%. I like seeing those passes into the box in terms of accuracy around the 60% mark to see the top visionary players in that forward line, and he clearly has the potential to become one of those. He receives the ball 23.5 times in those games, and that tells me that he's got a lot of opportunities to do what he wants to do on the ball. Forward pass at the back of passes, a forward player, so we don't always see massively positive ratios in terms of this, but we kind of like them to see pretty much equal, but you are seeing there more backward passes compared to the forward ones, and a significant difference in accuracy as well. If we then have a look at the defensive stats, because I find it very important to look, because the defence starts from the front line, and that's no different here. If we look at them, 5.41 defensive duels with a 53% success rate. That is very, very good for a forward line player. Aerial duels winning 22%, not really too much part of his game. He's not winning many of those aerial duels, leading to not many being undertaken. Loose balls that he's winning 36.8% of the time, with over 3 of those being challenged for. Sliding tackles, not too part of it, but 2 interceptions for a forward player is actually quite impressive, especially when you consider that's 2 every single game. Losses, 12 for a forward player. We see these losses quite high, but with 24.4 of them being in his own half, that's not too concerning for me. But recoveries, I'd like to see that certainly more higher than it is at the 4.26 he's currently doing now, maybe into the 6s and 7s. Hopefully he could achieve that as he develops gradually as a player. Clearances, not really too much part of it, and he does foul a few times in the game, leading to yellow cards being a little dampener on his record. So there you go. Everything that you could possibly want to know statistically, and obviously we like to talk about injuries, and I'm very, very happy to say that there's nothing to report regarding injuries. He's not necessarily had any. He's not missed any games according to Transfermarkt for Ghent so far due to injury, which is really, really promising as well. You know that would change as soon as he joined the Gunners for comedic reasons, of course. But that's some really, really interesting stuff for a player that, I mean, it would be, it would be awful if I got this wrong, but I think he would be Arsenal's first Canadian player if he was to sign, which would be quite a... I love seeing when new nationalities come into the club, and getting Arsenal's first Canadian player would be amazing. Let me know if I'm wrong. Can you think of any other Canadians that have played for Arsenal that I'm missing completely? Because I can't quite think of one. I think of ZLM as an American, coming from North America, of course, but other than that, can't think of too many others. But let me know. Nice trivia question for you guys. But I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you have, please drop a like on the video. You can follow Mahith in the chat box below too. I'll see you again very, very soon. As I said on yesterday's show, really unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to put a show out for you immediately after the West Ham game. We're going to do a review podcast on Sunday night at 9 p.m, so make sure you hit that notification bell and you'll get told when we go live to get all the review and reaction to Arsenal's game at home, I believe it is, to West Ham. So massively looking forward to that, and seeing you guys very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.